Excuse me.
Now you know when you hear that song that it is Tuesday. Yes, indeed, and it's nothing like getting some ascend from Shalonda Bowler and Shemsu-t. Hey, it is Master Force Radio here on WBRO Soul. How's everybody doing today? I am so excited. I hope you can tell, right? It is What Do Men Have to Say on Tuesday. That means it's the fourth Tuesday of July. Hey, everybody. Are you excited about who we're talking to today? Talking with today? My brother, King Ausar Aten. Well, you about to hear some juicy stuff because y'all don't even know how much of a friend he is in my life. Okay, okay. But before we get there, you know that we got to listen to Mother Mecca because she is going to tell us about all of this heat that we have going on in the universe. Mecca, are you there? Can you really give us an idea of how to transcend through this energy field? What's going on, my sister?
Hey,
Hey.
well, hello, it's Mother Mecca. Well, with today's weather report for July 26th, well, definitely I'll be talking about kind of the whole week. So, before we get started on that, I just want to check in with you, see how you've been feeling, how you've been flying with all these emotions going around. Because remember last week I told you it was going to be a lot of emotion because we were in a water sign. However, you know what I did? I had some challenges, I had some emotions, definitely some fears, and how I overcame it. I did some breathing. You always got to breathe the center, meditation, some journaling. And so remember, the emotions will come, but we just got to be steadfast and do some grounding, okay? But now that I've gotten through all of that, the bright sun, this is why the heat is here.
Oh,
Because our beautiful bright sun has moved into Leo on
woo!
July 22nd. And the Leos are roaring. Me and my girlfriends, we say the Leos are Leoing because they are out and they are ready, baby, and they are letting us know that it is Leo season. And so not only are they out and bright, we are feeling all of that energy. So it's just not, Leo season. You know, they're super proud, but also the sun is their actual, that's where Leo is naturally, that's their home. So while it is there, it's offering us some bold, authoritative, and confident feelings of energy. Leo is bringing the fire. That's a fire sign. So it promotes the element of action, motion, creation. And since Leo's energy tends to run hot, we all will be shining bright. Okay. We'll be ready to be happy, to shine, to perform. So you need to put your best act forward and move during this Leo season. And it's going to be going all the way to August 22nd. So I know you're wondering what our moon is doing because, the sun is in Leo right now. So our moon right now, on yesterday, which was the 25th, the moon entered into Cancer. So this is why we keep going from fire to water, fire to water, to emotions, to being bold but yet fearless, but also being fearless but then being fearful. So we're kind of feeling like we're a little bit all over the place. So when the moon enter Cancer, it is gonna it'll be waning until the new moon, which is on July 28th. That's why I said we're going to be talking about the week of the 26th today more than just today, because it's a lot going on, and we need to really kind of understand how we're feeling. So the moon being in Cancer is fixed, and that's water. Okay, so remember we talked about that before. If you listen in, that when something is fixed, then we're steady on that. Now the moon supports activities with family and a home life. So therefore, what you should be doing is making plans with your family and doing some activities. You can also remodel your home, or change your decor, or simply just complete the repairs that you need to do that you've been pushing off. This is really the season to do that, to get it done. And that while the moon is in Cancer during this time, it will add love to yourself and to others. So you really want to get those things done. Now, don't forget that the new moon will be going into Leo on July 28th. So you got 2 days to get prepared for that. You should be prompted to face to take on your rightful place in the universe, as far as your profession, your vocation, your life's direction, and you'll feel motivated to make partnerships much more meaningful. So that's with the new moon, okay? And again, our moon does things. It was waning starting on yesterday, but now it's still going to be waning all the way up until July 28th when we get that new moon. Now, we also, today is the 26th. So what I like to do to give us some more knowledge about the day is talk about how the destiny card plays out in our lives. Now, that's a 2 of clubs. So here's some other reasons why we're feeling some of this, some things and what we need to pay attention to. So your conversations, communication, sharing of ideas, and cooperation, all of above mentioned styles that goes into your brain activity, it will be heightened. So be careful not to have fear. See, this fear, it keeps coming up. Fear and arguments today. Don't be alarmed that you may feel compelled to talk to others more and establish new lines of communication. So I want you to look deeper into yourself, and you may discover that these inner conflicts that you're having between the desire to be alone and to be with others, that's where it's pulling from. And then, so don't run from talking to others, because someone may be able to shed a brighter light on who you are and help you move through this period that you're going through. The number one contributor and contribution that you should do, though, today is being honest with yourself. Really look into yourself and see what's going on. And then, it'll help you understand better. And I know many of us are feeling an imbalance. And let me tell you why we're feeling that imbalance. That's due to the lack of air, the air element. If you look at where everything is, we don't have planets in air right now. We only have one. We have a lot of fire and water going on in the planets. There is an astrological imbalance because of this in the skies, with the lack of the planets in the air sign. So the only planet that's in the air sign right now currently is Saturn. Saturn is in Aquarius. Everything else is either in war. Sorry, not war. It feels like it's in war, but water and fire. So since the air is the element of objectivity and clarity, we're feeling this imbalance in our head where we feel like we're all over the place. Without this influence of the air element, we can be hyper energized without real purpose, especially being in Leo with that fire sign. So I want you to pay attention to make sure you're not stuck in patterns and overly rooted in past hurts and drama. That can stem from the earth sign. So especially if you're earth sign, you're gonna pull more from there. So don't try to keep looking back and doing all that. It's okay to reflect, but don't go into the oh woe is me's. Now, because without that air, that's what we're doing. We're lost. We're feeling like a loss without perspective. And then that's all those feelings that we're doing. That's our water element. That's going into more of those water elements. So a little bit more information about what's going on cosmically. Jupiter turns into retrograde on the 28th as well. So we're going to have a new moon on the 28th, and Jupiter is going to be into retrograde. Now, that means that 5 planets will be in retrograde, including Chiron. And some people become afraid when they hear the word retrograde, but I look at it as a time of And when I say a time of you're going to reassess, redirection, revise, reinforce, because Jupiter retrograde, and that's really good that the reads were coming out for me, because Jupiter retrograde asks us that we look over our lives and we reflect on the parts where we actually felt successful, or that we had some success and that we were fortunate, because sometimes we don't even realize it at that time that we were being blessed, or whatever you call it. So I suggest that we all take the time to plan, because what we're going through right now this week, you need to make sure that you plan and set goals, so the fire element won't take you all the way over, and you will not just be running around in circles without a true plan. So, some of the other things you can do is get the much needed rest and drink lots of water. That's going to help you connect with the elements. Go outside and read to help you slow yourself down and pull in like more of that water element. So don't forget. Now what I did also, I said I'm gonna pull something from it's called a healing energy oracle card deck. And the reason why I wanted to do that is because we have an imbalance in air. So hopefully I was like, well, we can pull, I can give you an affirmation or give you something to look forward to, which is goodness. So I pull goodness, and it's what you can say is, I overcome my imperfections, polish my character, and feed on the positive. Thus, I free myself, allow my goodness to manifest and become a source of joy. Through gentleness, I offer unconditional support, understanding, and love to myself and others. And I really feel like that really spoke to everything that's going on in the universe right now. Again, do not be fearful. That keeps coming up to me. You just gotta rest. You gotta take a little bit more of your time. And don't you forget, you can contact me on Facebook as Mecca Mecca, Instagram as Mother Mecca 115 LLC, and TikTok. Now, you can always text me too at 708-253-8795. I'm Mother Mecca. I'm mystical, eccentric, calming, creative, and always anointed. And I love you like no other.
Woo,
Back to you, Moot.
Mother Mecca, man. I'm telling you, we got so much energy going on. The only thing I want to do is rest.
Oh, yeah. Please do. Please do. And I'll be coming over to give you some pampering time real soon.
Oh, wonderful. I just also want to acknowledge that we have 3 Capricorns on this call.
Oh, oh,
Hello.
oh my goodness. That's why our energy was like, hey, hey, hey.
That's right. We're grounding everybody today. We're grounding everybody.
Yes.
All right. All right. We'll see you next week, Mother Mecca. Thanks again, always, for getting us grounded.
All right. Thank you. Have a great week.
Okay. All right, everybody. Man, Mother Mecca, when she come in with those cosmic energy and that weather report, I'm telling you, I can feel it already before she says it. But I am grateful because it really does help us prepare. But now you will not have to be prepared for this conversation we're about to have, because this brother is going to ease and relax you and educate you and stimulate your mind all at the same time. So I'm going to bring in my brother Ausar so you can get to know him and you get to know why I love him so much. He is one of the most amazing people in my circle of influence. and I want him to, give you some idea of how he became who he is, and then you'll know why I love him so much. You there, Sarah?
Yes, yes, ma'am. How you doing, Mushosu?
I am wonderful. I am so excited to have you on the show this week. Thank you for taking time out from your busy schedule. First of all,
Always, always, never too busy for you.
oh, I appreciate you saying that. Thank you so much. Now, why don't you go ahead and give us a little bit of background about yourself so the people can get to know you a little bit because they won't get to know you as well as I do.
Okay, good, good. I'll start by saying this. I was born into an imperfectly perfect situation at the right time in the right space. And that has serendipitously morphed me into who I am today. So I have a lot. As far as my background is concerned, how we normally define ourselves, we usually do that inside of family, job. So I'm a child of the 60s, born in January 2nd, 1960. That makes me Shemsu-t's twin. We were born on the same
Yes.
day, but she preceded me. She was the advanced party. She's I think a year or two into it before me. So I always get a snippet of what's coming down the path in my life by following her. So that's been a blessing. So I born in Chicagoland, raised on the West Side in 1968. Significant year for me. That was the year that we had the tumultuous times. Martin Luther King was murdered. We moved to Maywood, Illinois. So my life at that point for me, I believe, took a drastic change. I moved from a very urban situation to Maywood, Illinois, which was like moving to Mayberry, manicured lawns, doors can be left open. Now, this is 1968, 69. And so it was a different, I know when you say Maywood, a lot of times people think of like Markham's and those kinds of communities in Chicago that once had their heyday. So it was a great environment to grow up in as a child. I attended grammar school, high school there, went away to SIU Carbondale. That's when my life began to unfold. I born into a family there was my stepfather raised three children besides his own. So I was in what was known as a non-traditional intact family. So I've been kind of blessed in that regard. Went to SIU for commercial graphics and design back in 1978. Did that for about 2 months and decided I didn't want to do that any longer, even though I was gifted in art. But it took too much time and I wanted to party. I ended up at the party school, SIU Carbondale.
Yes.
So after 2 years of being at SIU, changing my major probably every other month, I ultimately decided it was time for me to do something different. And during this time, I met this wonderful lady. Her name was Tony. She came down my sophomore year. Ultimately, she became my wife, and we were married for over 30 years, and she died 12 years ago. Now, we had our ups, downs, ins and out, power, passion of pain, of Black love, so it wasn't all a cakewalk. And during this conversation, some of that may come out. From that union was we have 4 adult children right now, and from the 4 adult children, we have 10, or I have 10 grands that I have to play the role of not only paternal and maternal. And that'll be part of our conversation. That has really helped me become the better man that I am.
Wow.
Spent some time in the military right after college, left college, went in the military primarily so I could afford to have a wife. That was the motivating force. And I didn't want to go to work in a factory. So I went in the military. And that was an interesting story in and of itself. I told my recruiter I wanted to go in the military, but I didn't want to carry a gun. I didn't want to sleep outside. And he told me the best thing I should do is become a sailor. Then I said I didn't want to go to sea. Then he told me how to join in the Navy and ultimately avoid going to sea. And I followed all the instructions and I did 10 years in the Navy. Sailor of the year, recruiter of the year,
Wow.
never got on a ship. So I'm a sailor that never went to CCC. After that, yeah, I left there and I went into, when I came out the military, I just decided to get out because I had gotten my master's degree in counseling psychology at that time. And so I decided to get out. And it was when I got out in 1980. I got out in 80. I went in 80, got out in 90. And then in 90, my life began to shift. And I say that because in 87, I got my master's degree in counseling psychology. And then I began to study Black psychology. And that came about because I had a private practice, and majority of the clients whom I was seeing were African American. I was able to get into the provider panel because they were looking for Black male therapists at that time. And I didn't have a doctorate. I didn't even really have a license at that time. But because of my specialty and a couple other things, they were able to get me into the provider panel. And I bring this up at this moment because it shifted my life. I began to study Black psychology, which intersected with a very important part of who I was I was in ministry. Yeah, I wasn't a pastor at the time, but I was in a traditional Christian ministry, non-denominational, word-based churches. And so I began to study Black psychology, which led me to Egypt, Kemet. And then I began to see that what psychologists call studying psychology is not the study of this. They say it's the study of the mind, but it's supposed to be the study of the soul, the body, the essence of who we are as people. And so that kind of made me go in a lot of different directions. And in 94, I think it was 94, I was over at this place called, I believe it was called in Tango. Is that the name of it?
Actually, that would have been, that had to be about 90.
90. Okay. What's the proper name of the in Tango?
Tango.
Tango. So I walked into Tango because I was going there to pick up a couple books, and the book in particular I was looking for was a Medu Neter. And there was this fine sister behind the counter. Her name was Shemsu-t.
Oh.
And she told me, I told her what I was looking for, and she had engaged me in a conversation. And we have been friends since then.
Yeah.
And so that started my journey. So I started reading the book. And the one thing I really appreciate about the relationship that began to ensue was she never tried to proselytize me or move me away from what my current belief system was. But over the course of a couple of years, I would engage her about certain questions I had about the Medu Neter, and had a couple of readings done by her. And that just kind of sold me. And ultimately, I became a Master Force counselor, or a Master Force coach, life coach. And I've been in that system since I think I did 2010 was the year I took the class.
Yeah, you were you were in the first class.
Awesome. So I'm a plank owner, as they say in the Navy. So my life has two big pieces to it. A therapeutic side, or I was a therapist for a long time, a minister for a long time, and I shifted from those two into being a life coach, a transformative or transformational life coach. And so I took in 90, I began to shift my spiritual orientation. Unbeknownst to anyone other than probably Shemsu-t, I began to stop teaching a lot of things that were being taught because I didn't believe in them anymore. But I maintained the integrity of ministry because I felt I couldn't just abandon it, because there's a lot of people I was engaged with who were coming behind me and resonating with the message. But because it was so new, and because Christianity, traditional Christianity, still had a stronghold on our people. Mind you, this is the 90s. The internet and all that stuff haven't popped off. The only way you were finding out about any kind of Black psychology or any kind of Kemetic thought, you had to go to the bookstores, you had to buy books, you had to go to lectures. You can't get it like you get it today. But I appreciate that I got it that way. I bought tons of books. Now, I didn't know the buying of the books was part of who I am. As my one of the things that I do and often share with my clients is their birth cards. The Destiny birth card system is part of one of the crafts that you can learn inside of the coaching system of Master Force Coaching. And in that, I found out not only was I a Capricorn, but I also found out that I had two unique cards that control my life. One of which is the Queen of Spades, and that's the card of self-mastery. So that helped me understand why I'm not a perfectionist, but I am one who likes to master things. Example, I mastered the military. I was at the zenith of my career. I was at a point where I could actually went into the officer corps, but Spirit told me, don't do it. I tried a couple times, and the last time I tried, Spirit says, you can do it if you want to. And I knew right then I didn't want to. And that's when I got out the military. And then the other card that I have is the King of Clubs. So those are two cards that control my destiny and have been influential in who I am today. So I have 4 great children. I don't brag on them from the perspective they've done this, that, or the other, but I brag on them for the uniqueness of each of them. 10 great grandchildren who I love them. I'll do anything for them. So that's where I'm at right now.
Ooh, yeah, well, yeah.
But I did this. I took 20 years off. So I worked for the federal government until 1990. At that point, I had 18 years of federal time. And I was 38, and I resigned. That kind of shifted my life too, because I didn't have that steady income. And I took 20 years of being an entrepreneur, a solopreneur. And then 2 years ago, I decided to come back to the government, and I went to work for the VA. And I help veterans find employment, and I love the job. It's a great job. So I didn't want to leave my money on the table. So I get to retire anytime I can retire. But where I retire and get half my money when I keep doing what I do and enjoying it and get all my money.
Yes, that is wonderful. And retirement is just an opportunity to reinvent,
Yes.
and reinvest in your own gifts. So, you just leave one profession, and you may not even retire from the VA. You don't
Right.
have to.
Right.
Because you are doing a great service.
Yeah, and you made a great point there. Why are we using old terminology?
Yeah.
Our parents, grandparents, they retired because they were spent. They were working in these jobs that when they retired, they probably didn't have too much longer to live because they just worked these jobs that took everything out of them.
Yeah.
And for us, when we hit that retirement age, many of us, we're really at the place where the best is yet to come. And so I like the word of reinventing. And that's interesting because a week ago, I was walking along the Mississippi. And I was thinking, I was feeling as though I felt when I got out of high school, what lies ahead. And then I heard Spirit says, what do you want to lie ahead?
Mm-hmm.
I could create the life I desire. So I've been spending time, particularly this year, getting really focused on who am I. And I'm using the Destiny cards to look at what my life path is. I'm using spiritual numerology, all of those things to say, how do I maximize that which I came here to do, be, or have, and experience? That's
beautiful. That's very critical, Greg, because you and I tend to love books, and we share them together. Matter of fact, we used to have our sessions. 20 years ago, our sessions were at the bookstore.
Remember, I used to pay you in books.
Yep.
Hey, move, meet me for a session. I'll buy you some books.
Right. And we used to love that 53rd Street board.
Yeah, I missed that. I missed that. And it says, like, I follow the scriptures in the sense that even though I don't buy into the Bible as the only source document, there's so many nuggets in there. Like one nugget says, despise not the time of small beginnings. When I first met you, like I wouldn't be able to get the time I got from you then. Now you are so busy with what's going on with Master Force, with the projects you're inside of. And I say, I really value the intimate time we had
Yeah.
together,
Yeah.
not knowing that it was like I was in a formative place of a rites of passage. And so that was a wonderful space for me.
Wow, that is really great. And I didn't realize that either. And it's so interesting to go back as far as Etango. You,
Yes.
and the thing is, the history has always been inside of how do we serve our people?
Yes.
How do we bring knowledge? And here the universe then hooked us up, two queens and a king,
Yes.
you know what I'm
Yes.
saying? Because we
Yes.
both king,
Yes.
queen, and king, right?
Yes, and see that's why that whole, like when I look at the Ausar set,
Yes.
that's that queen and king running
Yep.
together,
Yep.
that divine essence of who we are.
Yep.
Be-
And then
beyond-
it's only
yeah.
one day you can be a queen of spade, and that's January 2nd. And I just don't meet
Now you know what? I didn't know that.
intimate, right?
I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
It's
I
only
didn't know
one
that.
day, Greg. It's only one day you can
Get
be,
out of here!
and it's only one day you can be a king of spade.
I did not know
And that's
that.
January 1st. That's it. Yes, sir. So our meeting is very destined. I love that.
Wow, that's
Absolutely.
deep. That's
Yep.
deep.
And then the other thing I wanted you to just elaborate on, I want to give you this spin here, that in Think and Grow Rich, it's stated that the most productive years are between the ages of 60 and 80.
I can receive that.
Yeah. And so when you get a message the other day that says, what do you want? I mean, man, you got, another 50, 60 years to
Yes.
yes.
And I value that because I know, being a Capricorn, the Saturn is a planet that influences us.
Yeah.
And I'm in the Saturn part of my life where if you didn't take care of yourself before then, those things show up right now. And I would just have so much gratitude because for the most part, I'm healthy along with being wise. And Saturn, which is I'm going to teach you kind of planet, has really been favorable to me.
Yes.
Yeah, and so I'm in this time of life that can be a very challenging time for many because they begin to deal with physical ailments. I feel blessed that I'm in the position that I'm in.
That is wonderful. Now, I want to talk back about what had you become who you are. So,
Mhm.
can you tell us just a little bit about your parents?
Okay. Well, I had my father, my stepfather. I don't even like to say that, but I say my covenant father.
Mhm.
He came into my life when I was 2.
Okay.
Um, and
So,
at the
what
point of,
originally happened with your original father? With your
I didn't know him. My mom she's from the Louisiana, but during
got it.
the
Hmm.
age when I came into being, when I was born, she was living on the west side of Chicago.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so she was 24 when I was born. And when my father met her, he took on a family, ready-made family, because my mom had myself and my sister at that point.
Yes,
So
and I
three,
love your
three of
relationship
us.
with your
Yeah.
sister. Yep.
Yeah, that's my girl. She's that Cancer
Yes.
energy for me. And then I have a younger brother was born into through our family. Donald, he died 10, 12 years. No, he died probably 15 years ago. He died from AIDS complication at the
Okay.
point when was dealing with it. They didn't have all the medicines and the things that they have
Right.
today.
Yeah. Mhm.
And so that was 4 of us. And my mom worked factory jobs. My dad worked for International Harvester. So I grew up in a family where I saw the work ethic. Uh,
Yeah.
my father was a great provider. When he passed in 90, he passed in 1992, the year I was called into ministry, into the pastorate. The day the week he died, I was sitting in the front room with him, and I told him that I don't go to funerals. And he said to me something really interesting. He wasn't a church going man. He said, young man, before you die, you're going to go through a lot of funerals. And by the nature of what I do today, I go to more funerals than most people. So that's interesting. So I grew up in a work ethic. My father gave me that. He gave me style. He could really dress, all those kinds of things. What he didn't give me, I didn't know how to communicate love beyond buying love, not necessarily buying love, like being a provider. Like he was a great provider. And I thought if you provide and just be at home at night, you're doing what you should do. But when he had his aneurysm and I was at the hospital, I knew something was strange when I was standing in the emergency room and he was unconscious and I was having a difficult time just touching him. Now, he's never done anything to me, never abused me. What I mean by that is, I got whoopings as a kid, but he never abused me. I was understood why it was coming and what was going to happen. Never did it when he was angry. I seldom got it. But I was like, why can't I touch him? Because I wanted to touch him, but I couldn't. And then I learned right then, I observed that my father never really touched me except to shake my hand. And he never told me he loved me. He would always say, good job. He gave me accolades. And at that point in 1990, I made a decision that I was going to hug my children, my male children and female children. I was going to say I love them. And to this day, my sons are 38 and 39. I make it my business to hug them, tell them I love them, and share that with them.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, I don't know how I got there, but
no, that's great because that's a side of that reflection, though. That's a really great lesson, and that's something that comes up after that second Saturn return. Now, both of us have gone through our second Saturn return that happens between the age of 58 and 60, and that's when you really get to look back and say, okay, what have I created and what more do I have to give?
Yes. And I'm taking ownership inside of that because I look at my children. I can say, even though I was at home, I didn't give the leadership that I could have given other than being the disciplinarian. But I didn't have anyone to show me that. So my father just showed me that the man is the disciplinarian. The man is to make sure that the family gets 3 hots and a cot. And I've been able to.
The family gets what?
3 hots and a cot, 3 meals and a place to sleep.
Wow. Okay.
and we always had that. We never was threatened with being evicted. Nothing ever got cut off in my family. But when I think back, I can know that there were some harsh times because when I reflect, I can see when my mom and dad had arguments, it was usually around money. It was usually, so even though we lived a great life, it was at what cost? I mean, they worked really hard and they didn't know how to create like we can create today and didn't have, they probably had the capacity to do it, but they just did the traditional thing. You work hard.
Yeah. And then what led you to become a pastor?
Oh, so my mother, we didn't go to church. We went to church. The last time we went to church as a family, I was probably like 5 or 6 because I can very vividly remember that. But as we got older, we were CMEs, Christmas, Mother's Day, or Easter. That was we were going to church. But in my family, in my house, I had this old Bible. It was a picture Bible, but it wasn't these generic picture Bibles today. It was a really detailed Bible with really small, like a cartoon, but it was the whole Bible. And I used to find myself reading this thing. And then as my teenage years, I read through the Bible a number of times. And then I never thought I would be a minister. There was a situation I recall. I met this young lady, and we do some strange things when we meet young ladies. And she was a churchgoer, and so I remember meeting her at church one Sunday, like at 3:00, And I got there before anybody, and I was sitting in the back of the church. And as I was sitting there, it was they had an air conditioner on. I was sitting in the back of the church, and I could see most Black churches got those 3 chairs in the front.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I saw myself sitting in the middle chair, sitting in a Buddha pose. And not only did I see myself sitting in a Buddha pose, now I ain't never told nobody this, but I saw myself. It was like as I was sitting in the Buddha pose, I began to levitate. And so I'm sitting in the back of the church, and then one of the deacons came in, and then it kind of brought me present. And I thought I was just dreaming, but for me, I was saying that stuck with me my whole life, because there was nobody in my family that was a pastor or anything like that.
Wow.
So why would I have this? Why would I have this image? Like, it wasn't like my father was the pastor or co-pastor, and ultimately I said I was going to be it. No, so I didn't think nothing of it for a long time. And then when I was 20, and when I turned 21, 1990, no, 1931. Okay, at 21, I was called into ministry. At 31, I was called into the pastorate. Now, when I got the call into the pastorate, I asked my mother, "Ma, did anything strange happen to me when I was a kid?" And she said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Was there any religious stuff happen to me? Did anything?" Now, I remember my mother used to go to a reader when I was younger. I remember her going to a reader. I'm going to have that conversation with her. I've never had the conversation.
Yeah, see that? There you go.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's coming present right now.
Yes.
I remember going with her to the south side of Chicago. I probably was like 16, and there was candles, and she would go to this reader. I don't think nobody knew that but me. Well, and I do remember the lady telling her something about me. I got to ask her what it was. Well, anyway, when I asked my mother this, she said, "Well, when you were 3 years old, I was in a church." Now, check this out. The church was on the west side of Chicago, and not too long, they tore it down. The pastor of this church used to travel all around the world. He was charismatic. And so she was sitting in the back of the church. So she had to be about 27. I'm 3. She's sitting in the back of the church, and the church is packed. This is 1963. And this preacher steps out, and he says, "Is Gregory's mother here?" And she's sitting in the back. She don't go to church. She just showed up that Sunday. So she didn't figure he was talking about. He walked to the back, and he said, "Is Gregory's mother here?" My grandmother turned to her and said, "Lee, he talking to you." That's what my grandmother called my mom, Lee. And she said, "I am." Then he said, he spoke some things to her. One of the things would be, I would be a child that did not require a lot of discipline. That what I was to become, nobody has been.
Wow.
That's what she. And so she never told me this until I asked her that question. And it was right before I went into the pastorate. So what pulled me into the pastorate, I lived my life just by taking the path of least resistance when it comes to what direction I should go. And I've been always leaning into spirituality. And because spirituality meant religion for the biggest part of all of our lives, that is where I ended up. Yeah.
Wow. That is amazing. You just said so many things that I had never heard before.
And I didn't even acknowledge until this conversation. So I don't know if I should keep talking.
Yes. Well, let it all come out, right?
Right.
Let me do a quick station break before we.
Right.
You are listening to Master Voice Radio on WVRO Soul, and this is the fourth Tuesday. I am tongue twisted because Greg has just told us so much stuff that I didn't know, and I thought I knew everything about Greg. And this is on What Men Say. So, Greg, Ausar, listen, you went back to Greg for me, right? Because
Right. You unpacked me. You took me back. Right.
So why don't you tell the audience, and you can continue on, but let them know what had you go from Greg to Ausar. Yeah.
Okay, good. So in 2020, I'm 40. No, it wasn't 2020. 2020, I'm 40. 2010. 2010 was when.
It had to be
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
2010
yeah,
is when we.
yeah, 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 yeah. It's 2010. So there is in the series of books entitled the Medu Netter has a series of books, and one of them has to do with transformation and meditations of transformation. And you go through this series, and I took myself through it, and during that time, I didn't know anything about Asar or any of our set. I knew very little, but I didn't know about when you look at the whole pantheon of the Kemetic netters. But that when I came out of that 40 days of meditation, that name just kept resonating with me.
Mm.
So, and when even though I tell people when they ask my name, I say Asar, but Asar to me is a title. It represents the divine masculine male. It's the manifestation of source, or what we use, God, in the form of a man. On the opposite, Aset represents the divine expression of femininity, and not just because she's in a female form, but the essence of she represents the pure running of divine feminine energy. And we both are, all of us are Set and Asar as well as Haru. And we grow into that. So that's when I began to really study more about Kemetic science, Kemetic spirituality. And, there's a lot of gurus out here that people are speculating and giving a lot of information, but I'll stay open for expansion. So I use the term, I call myself Asar. And so it's affirming that when people call me, when they say Asar, it's affirming who I am. The divineness, the essence. I'm Asar, you Asar, we Asar. But I just acknowledge Asar. Yeah. So so I use that term, and I identify with what it represents. But I easily go by Greg. If someone calls me Greg, I'm not offended. It does not take away from my spiritual evolution, who I've become.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And I had the pleasure of, after we met, I became engaged to,
Ah.
and you had just I talk a little bit about Peace Church. How did
Okay.
that
Okay.
actually come
See
about?
now, that's so. I lived my entire life by being in sync with Source.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was called into the pastorate in '91, one morning, okay, and here's the conversation I had with, let's say, God, because that's where I was then. I said, if this is what you want me to do, pastor a church, I will not have a storefront, because I'm not a storefront person. If I represent the God of the universe, why should I have some rinky-dink place to start with? So the next morning, I go to work. I drive to work away the same route I always go in this community. We have recently purchased a home, and I saw this huge church. It was called the Peace Church of Bellwood. Little did I know it was an all-white church, and I didn't know what they were going through. But Source told me, when you get off work, come back and see about renting that church. So I didn't think nothing of it. And I don't have a problem with negotiating or asking people for things.
Right.
And so I knock on the door, and the pastor, he was 25 years old, he was a white pastor, came to the door. So where the church was located at this time in Bellwood was still the side of Bellwood that was turning from being predominantly white to the melanated community. Families were moving in there. Mm-hmm. And so when he came to the door, I introduced myself and I said, hey, I'm interested in renting the church. Do you guys rent the church? He says, strangely enough, we do rent the church. We are meeting tonight because we are renting the church to another group that we are putting out. I said, wow. First of all, I'm glad I didn't know that, because if I would have knew that, I wouldn't have asked to rent the church. Yeah. And long story short, that night they voted to get terminate the contract with the black church that was renting from them. I don't know what they did or what was going on. I never really inquired. And then he positioned to them that there was a new church startup, and at that time it was Exodus Ministries. The Exodus was the name of the church, the ministry that I had started. And so he was able to talk to the board. The board agreed. So from 90 to 90, 91 to 96. No, we started in January 92 to 96. I pastored Exodus Ministries inside of the Peace Church of Bellwood. During that same time, they would have me preach at their service, which was predominantly white, average age 60 years old, but this was old money. And so one Sunday I preached, and then after I preached, they took a vote. I said, no, they was about to take a vote. And I said, what is going on? They said, we're taking a vote because we've been looking for a new pastor. I said, wait, before you do that, y'all need to know this about me. I lead as the pastor. The church don't lead me. I had the audacity to tell them. And they took the vote, and the vote was 72-2. And these, now mind you, this is majority is white Germans.
Wow.
And so for a season, I pastored Exodus Ministries and the Peace Church of Bellwood. Then I transitioned Exodus into the Peace Church of Bellwood, became one ministry. The wonderful thing about Peace Church of Bellwood that most people don't know just from this conversation, if you come into the Peace Church, the wall on the behind the sanctuary, the wall behind the pulpit, it was like a 80-foot tall wall that had pyramids in it. It had 7 pyramids in it, and it depicted certain things that represented Christianity. It was a beautiful church. Come to find out that the Germans built it, and the Germans have a relationship with comedic science when it comes to building. So a lot of their buildings are built on principles that has to do with pyramids and space orientation.
Wow.
So Peace Church of Bellwood, I became the pastor in 1996. That was a big showdown. In 1996, because the church had begun to grow, and I was really taking it in that direction of representing the community that was coming. The board president decided that he was going to hold a meeting and vote me out. Little did he know that I got wind of that, so I went and got a white attorney that understood church law, gave him the bylaws, and he came to the meeting. Because he was white, when he showed up in the meeting,
they didn't know.
They didn't know he was the attorney, my attorney. They just thought he was maybe an old member or a friend or something. So when they got ready to cast the vote, he stood up. He said, before you cast the vote, somebody had placed the vote. And then he stood up and he made mention of the bylaw says this, that, and the other. And one of the things in that church, if you were 12 and had went through something like the catechism, you could vote. And so little did they know that I knew that. So all of our, if you had been baptized, so all of our kids had been baptized, and so they could vote.
Oh wow!
So that we won the vote on our children, and so that's so that's the Peace Church. And then over the course of time, we changed the name from Peace Church to the Covenant of Peace Ministries. And inside of that is I taught traditional Christianity, Word of Faith, not Baptist, not Pentecostal, but the Word of Faith. And then I also would have classes teaching comedic spirituality for those who were interested in it. So that's how I got to where I was spiritually. And then eventually I got tired of being double-minded, holding on to things I know weren't true. So I decided to start deconstructing Christianity and taking it back to the place from which it came. It's a comedic spiritual system.
Yes. And yeah. I always have memories of being married in that church and walking down the aisle, because we did the
Now it wasn't just a wedding now.
No, that's
y'all
right.
Had drummers, y'all had dancers. It kind of catapulted me into another level of spirituality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because we had to wear a certain thing. We were into a fast before it.
Yeah.
Uh, it was very significant. That was the most impacting wedding I ever had the opportunity to be part of.
Yeah,
It
and
was
then you and your wife officiated, so that
yes,
was very
yes.
significant as well.
Yes. So those who don't know, Tony was in ministry before I was, and she was a traditional. She grew up in a Baptist church, and so for her to tell me that she was in ministry, that was kind of different. But it all worked out. She had a series of dreams early in our life that said that here's one dream that's significant. One time she woke up from a dream sweating, and she said, how did you know? I said, what are you talking about? How did you know? She wake me up saying, how did you know? Then she said, I just had a dream. We were in a cave. We had on these monk, how the cloaks that monks wear. And
Mhm.
there was a bunch of us, and you had led us in darkness to a place where you found these things on the side of the wall that you lit up, and it lit up the room, and we were in safety. She said, how did you know? And so I just took that. I didn't know, but she was prophetic, and so it just showed. And we were, matter of fact, we weren't in a cave. We were in a pyramid, Shemsu-t. Now
Yes.
did I see? This is crazy because when she told me the dream, I could not understand it other than what she was saying, and I was early into comedic thought and all of that, but I was teaching and sharing what I was learning with her. And so that was for me an affirmation that I was on the right path.
That is so amazing.
Now, these things I don't even tell people.
Right. I
Oh.
know, right?
But so the topic tonight is what men say.
But
And I
man
think it's
say.
what men tell. When you get them to open up, they'll say a lot.
Yes, but I mean, I just love the fact that, you said a couple of things that really were striking. One was that you go with how the universe is moving.
Yes.
You flow with it, and
Yeah.
you don't put up that resistance so much, and that
Oh,
is really profound because it keeps leading you into the right space.
right. And I don't work hard. I
Yeah,
know all I have to be where I'm supposed to be,
yeah,
doing what I'm supposed to do.
yeah,
And the universe takes care of me.
yeah. And that
Even
that
yeah,
that's a wonderful, yeah, that's a wonderful concept to have. And it's important that people realize that, sometimes we can be gifted to be born in that setting, but you can
yes,
still cultivate it within yourself. Just because you weren't born with it does not
right.
mean you cannot cultivate that, because you
You're
can.
born into this. I tell people you are born into a perfectly imperfect situation, but
Yes,
that situation is the catalyst.
for you.
Because,
Yeah.
right, it's for you, right. You have to know, even though you have brothers and sisters, y'all just come from the same womb. That does not mean you all have the same assignment.
That's right.
But one of your siblings can be an antagonist.
Hmm.
So they help build the resilience you need. One of them will be there to take, like my sister. She's one who is like, she's like a set. I mean, yeah, a set to me. You know,
Yes.
she always makes sure I'm put together.
Oh my goodness. She makes sure you put together, your
Right,
house put
right,
together,
right,
your life
exactly,
put,
right,
and she done
right, right.
retired, so now she can focus on you. I'm like,
Right,
oh my
exactly.
goodness.
Like she comes to my place and I let her stay in my space, like
Mhm.
an Airbnb, and I go stay with my girl. And then when I come back home, I get boxes at my door that
'Cause
she done ordered me wine glasses and everything she think I need.
whatever she didn't find when she was there.
Exactly. You're right. Whatever she didn't find and said, and I had said I needed this. I said, but then I knew that when it's time, it'll show up,
That is so
and
beautiful.
that's how it happened. My whole life is like that.
That is wonderful. But now, what had you move? Because were you a therapist at the same time that you were
Yes,
a pastor?
yes, yeah. So while I was pastoring, I was practicing as I had my own private practice, and so I that's when I was contrasting. I found a lot of what I was doing in a clinical perspective place wasn't as effective as it could be. One of the things I found that all the Black folks that I was seeing had a spiritual side to them, and psychology don't really address that.
That's
Most of the most of the like you can be a cognitive behavioralist or whatever. It don't really address the spiritual. It don't address the psyche, the soul of man. It addresses the brain of man, the behavior of man, but it don't get into the what the Egyptians call the ba, that what makes you uniquely you. And so ultimately, first thing that happened was I decided to stop practicing therapy, and I moved into coaching.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 2010. That's when I met you. That's when before I met you, I was familiar with coaching. There was the Association of Professional Coaches. I had went to some of their meetings, but I didn't feel any one of those modalities to get my certification in. But then I met you, and when that year you told me you was going to unveil the coaching model you had created, and I jumped right in. And so once I jumped right in, it fit because I think most people can benefit from true coaching more so than therapy. I have found many times people like therapy because you can keep telling a story, you can keep dwelling in what has been, but coaching puts you on the court for right here, right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's been a very, very powerful tool. I integrated into, I don't do much coaching today because it takes too much out of me. But I integrated into my teaching, and that's transformation. So when I'm teaching something, I always try to have a transformation application that goes with it. Yeah.
And let's talk a little bit about that. The difference between, because a lot of people, you hear people all the time saying, you need to get a therapist, you need to get a life coach,
Mhm.
and the difference, there's a difference between the two, and you can get one or you can get both, it doesn't matter.
Right.
But let's kind of distinguish
Yeah.
audience the difference between the two.
Yeah. So most of us are familiar with therapists. They trade time for money. They give you a clinical hour and you pay them a clinical dollar. Many times they will engage you in just talk therapy, let you discuss, and they'll reflect on it. One thing about coaching, which is different, it's based on asking a powerful question that brings change.
Mm-hmm.
The therapy, the coach don't do the work. They help you through the work. You see, there's a difference. A coach, just like an athletic coach, holds you accountable, will say the hard thing to you, will move you from yesterday's failing moment to today's victory. Not dwelling in what has happened, but dwell more in what you want to happen. How could you have won that meet or that race yesterday? What things could you have done different versus having a continual conversation about what somebody did to you? Now, it's very real things. People have had things, Black folk in particular. What makes us so messed up is something has happened to us. And we got to deal with what happened to us, but also know that you are not what happened to you.
Yeah.
You can rise like the zenith out of the ashes of what has happened. So coaching to me it's a possibility of what you can create right here, right now, in spite of. In a twinkling eye, you can come into the session. Now, I'll give you an example. So I am part of my job is to engage veterans who are in between jobs, at risk of losing their job, don't have no job. Some of them are homeless. Some haven't worked in years. And first question I ask them is, okay, they'll come in and say, I want a job. And I'll say, what type of job? They'll say, any old job. I just want a job. That's where the coaching starts.
Mm-hmm.
You don't just want a job. You want something that you can enjoy doing and get compensated. So I sell them first on getting clear on what it is they desire. And some of them don't think that they can get it based on what has happened to them in their lives.
Yeah.
And so now I've got them at the place where these guys are getting hired into jobs that they never thought they would, because coaching gives you a possibility.
Yes. That is so amazing. And then the other way that I like to distinguish
Mhm.
the difference between therapy and coaching is with the word trauma,
Mm,
because therapists will actually have you think that trauma is forever and that you're going to need some kind of medicine or something to help you to deal with the
yes,
anxiety every time you get triggered,
yes,
or that if you get triggered, you have to move away from that or the world has to change. Whereas in coaching, we're clear that trauma has a hidden gift,
yes,
that if you do the work, if and when you do the work, that gift will be revealed. But not only that, you will have the strength to now move forward in life to create something outside of that trauma that will be more fulfilling.
yes. And I like that because, here we see traditional psychology don't talk about soul contracts.
No.
But in coaching, we talk about soul contracts, or coming here with a divine purpose.
Yep.
And so when you understand you have a soul contract, that trauma could be part of the contract.
Yep.
So now you move from, actually, I was a victim, but now I'm a participant.
I'm a participant. And then you get to the point where you move into, oh, not only am I a participant, but I asked for this. I
Yes.
designed this.
Oh, don't tell people that. Don't tell people that.
Well,
But
I'm the coach's coach, so I
right,
get to go
right.
deeper, right?
No, but you're right. But I chuckle because ultimately true growth never comes until they embrace what is.
Yeah,
And then you can't release it until you embrace it.
that's right. And it has to come from you. It can't be,
Yes.
well, I'm gonna tell you, this is you like this because your daddy did this or your mama did that, and no,
Mm,
you,
mm,
you know, even if
mm.
there's truth in that, that our family is our training ground.
Yes. Yes. They're the hurdles. They're
That's
the
right.
barriers.
Yeah,
They're the things that give you strength.
yeah,
They're the ones you're learning the lesson from. And sometimes you're the one that's giving them the lesson.
yes,
They know you shouldn't love them, but because all the things they did to you, but you can still love them in spite of them. So
yeah.
you are given the lesson. So I tell people, every engagement you have with a human being, you're either giving the lesson or receiving the lesson.
Mm-hmm. That's
And the best dance is when you do both.
yes.
Yeah. Now, you said something else when we talk about therapy. Therapy is also inside of diagnosis. They
Mm-hmm.
use the DSM. I don't know which
That's
one they're
right.
on.
Yep.
And so they make you fit into a diagnosis. Now, if you ever get the chance to read the DSM, if you
Yes.
don't watch it, you'll walk away with a bunch of diagnosis because you
Yep.
said, I got that, I do this, I do that. And so I don't like it because it you become what you see, or what you're
That's
being,
right.
the picture that is being given to you. Like I'll give you an example. There's a homeless guy. Let's put it like this. There's a guy around the corner from my building who is experiencing homelessness,
Mm-hmm.
because he's not a homeless guy. He's experiencing
Right.
homelessness. A young brother, and he reminds me of one of my sons. And
Yes.
so when I see him, one day I was sharp as the board of health.
Mm-hmm.
And so I turned the corner and he was right there. I stopped and had a conversation with him. He was shocked himself. The people walking by were shocked. And the thing that shocked him most was I asked him his name.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm giving him a lesson that he is valued.
That's right.
I'm learning the lesson that, except for the grace of the universe, this is me.
Mm.
And perhaps I'm paying it forward for one of my great great grandchildren that may have to have this expression of life.
Mm.
And so he knows me now. And now here's why I brought this up, because sometimes when I see him, he don't see me. He's almost acting as if he's not in his right mind.
Yeah.
But when I show up, we have real fluid conversations.
That's right.
See, we can impact people when we don't pigeonhole them or allow them to be in what people say they are.
Yes.
So yesterday I asked him, I know what his name is Duran. I said, Duran, you from St. Louis? He said, nope. I said, where you from, man? He said, St. Louis by way of Ohio and Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm getting to know him, and he becomes lucid. He becomes having these conversations. He pops into reality. So one day I'm gonna have a real conversation with him that's going to be the catalyst to Duran taking the next step out of what he's in.
That is so wonderful. It's so wonderful. In the fact you're demonstrating so many things that we have to utilize in coaching, because the mirroring greatness
Oh, yes.
is that
Yes.
one thing. Like, I can see your greatness even when you are out here living in the elements. I can
Yes.
still
Yes.
see that you are budding. You are learning something about yourself. And as soon as you're ready, you're going to transcend that.
Yes. Yes. And someone told me the other day, one of my community partners who I referred a veteran to, they said, well, he's been here a number of times. And then I said, well, we believe that this might be the time that they change.
Yes.
If he keeps coming back, you keep letting him come back, hold him accountable, and ultimately it's going to stick. That's why he keeps coming back.
Wow. That I love that story, Greg, and then the patience that you exhibit, because a lot of times people are doing things and they're trying to be in a hurry, but
Right.
hurry is
Right.
is a form of fear.
Right.
A fear that it's not going to happen,
That's
a
right.
fear that
That's
you're
right.
going to fail, a fear
Yes.
that you can't handle it. But when you're patient, you just trust the process and allow it to all unfold.
And guess what? When you're patient, you can be present.
Yes.
You're never present if you're rushing.
Yep.
And so now, you know where I'm learning all this from? My grandchildren.
Yes.
Because
Absolutely.
with my children, I wasn't patient.
Nope.
I give them information, they should get it. With my grandchildren, I ask the other question.
Yeah.
I listen for the conversation.
Yep.
And that's why I believe it's important we need that extended family.
Oh.
Because when you are raising your children, oftentimes those are the earning years of your life. And that's why grandmama and granddaddy and big mama, big daddy and the neighbors were so critical to our community. Because it's difficult to raise children, to cultivate children properly, and take care of the day-to-day things of life.
You can't do it. And that's why our children are left unattended.
Yes.
Our children literally are left unattended. They are not raised inside of an environment of love and nurturing the way that they deserve.
Yes.
They actually deserve it. Because now the way the economics go, you have to have, even if you have two parents, they
right.
work.
Right. And so now with my grandchildren, I'm teaching them how to create money, how to create experiences where money comes to them.
That's right.
And then I'm teaching them it's not the money you want, it's the experience you want. So learn how to get the experience without focusing on the money. I believe a lot of times we only have this money thing because we say in order to get it, we got to have money. You don't have to have money. If you desire something, if something is part of your destiny, all you got to do is be open to it.
I just had a coaching session with a couple where we actually went through, part of their homework was to do that. What is it that you want? Now tell me, what is the experience? What is the
essence? You gave me that one.
I live by that, Greg.
I remember that. January of 2010, I had that assignment.
Okay. I'm telling you, it makes all the difference in the world, because it's really the essence that you want.
Yeah, and because of that, I created a coaching program called Getting Clear.
Yep.
And I would use the cards of destiny to help a person identify their soul path. I'll use some numerology, and then I'll help them. I'll bounce that up. We'll look at what they had naturally wrote down that they desired, and we looked at that in terms of what the cards said what represent their highest and greatest good, and then they choose. You can go after whatever you want to go after. But if
Yeah.
you're going after these things that don't represent your highest and greatest good, guess what they mean? That means it's going to give you some resistance in life, some headaches in life. No, you got to go after the thing that represent what represents you.
And what
You
you
don't need
came
certain
here,
things.
you actually
Yes.
came here inside of a
Yes.
mission, a purpose, and there's a blueprint.
Yeah, there is a blueprint. The Bible tells us that. Now, the reason why I use the Bible because so many Black people have had the Christian experience or the
Yes.
biblical experience.
Yeah.
So I speak to a mass audience when I'm able to say to them, "I know the plans I have for you, to prosper you, to get you to your expected end." Who is the I? The I is Source, the universe.
Yes.
The I is you. If you get quiet and really go inside, you have all the answers.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody teaches us that.
I had someone that I hold dear to me. She was giving me a ride not too long ago, and she said, "Do you believe in Jesus Christ?" And I said, "Well, I honor the story of Jesus, but do I
Yes.
believe him as my Lord and Savior? No, I do not." And she said she was gonna pray for my soul, and that I needed to be careful because I'm
Right.
teaching people to go into Satanism, and I allowed people to say whatever they had to say. That didn't stop me from loving
Right.
her,
Right.
anything, and
Can,
I,
can, can, yeah. Can I
yeah,
speak to that
yes,
from
yes, yes,
from? So here's first of all, I want to say this. I honor whatever a person believes
mm-hmm,
because your belief is your belief.
right,
But when you have an engagement with me, when you bump into me, you've bumped into the teacher.
mm-hmm,
So, because of my Christian experience, I'm most equipped to have that conversation with the person that bumps into me.
yeah,
So, when she says to me, "Do you believe in Jesus Christ?" I have to tell her. At one point, I bought into that story
oh
as
yeah,
literal.
yeah,
But today, I understand that it is a story.
yeah,
And I can show you where the story comes from, what the stories mean. But really, here's what whether or not believe in Jesus or Sar, it's the message and not the messenger.
yes,
And for Black folk, Shemsu, that is our biggest detriment,
yeah,
that we are not willing to look at what's not working.
mm-hmm,
We are psychotic in that we're going to keep doing it because of, see, belief is not the same as knowing.
that's right,
It's what you know that causes you to grow.
mm-hmm,
You could believe in something, but it could be a lie. So
yeah,
that's my biggest concern for our people is that we can take, because we are spiritual people. We
yes.
are spiritual, but religion has hijacked.
Now let's go into that because that's one of my questions for you.
Mhm.
What is the difference between religion and
Okay.
spirituality?
So the way I do, okay, first of all, let me give you the etymology. Let
Yes,
me
yes.
exegete. That's what we
Mhm.
do. The word religion comes from the Latin religare, to tie to bind to. So religion binds you to something.
Mhm.
Spirituality is a freeing thing. It's not a binding thing. So I define religion as spirituality expressed within a culture.
Mm.
And your culture can adulterate because the culture is a physical thing that can adulterate a spiritual thing.
Yep.
And
Mhm.
so you got to unpack the things within your culture that ties you away from, it keeps you from getting to the essence of who you are as a spirit being. So now people are saying, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. Help me understand that.
Mm.
Because now we have people just tossing terms around to do whatever they want to do.
Mhm.
Because when you really are spiritual, You now realize you are not your own, that you are aligned with source. You
Mm-hmm.
are an aspect of source that wants to express itself through you as you.
Mm-hmm.
But our egos, our self gets in the way.
Mm-hmm.
So the difference between me is spirituality is the expression of your oneness of being without being encumbered by cultural norms,
Mm-hmm.
things that limit, like saying you got to worship a particular way, saying that there's like the Egyptians or the Cometians, they didn't have a term for God. They used the word neter or neteru, where we get nature. They understood that nature represents all aspects of what the Europeans call God.
Mm-hmm.
So they would have an image that was representing an aspect. They didn't worship the image, they understood the aspect of all of them. They
Mm-hmm.
didn't, there was a oneness of being, even between, you may have a sun over here, you got a moon over here, you got a scarab beetle or a Kepler over here, but they all work together to help you understand the essence of source, the universe.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're unpacking this thing. I think it's not going to be the same in 10 years and 20 years. I think it's all, the house of cards is falling down. We
Yeah.
moved we moved out of the Piscean age, which
Yeah.
is all about religion. We moved into the age of Aquarius, which is about the water or new, and it's about the spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And so you, as long as you're holding on to material, you can't grasp spirit.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I like well, I don't know if I was raised in the church. I just love going to church and I love the story of Jesus.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I wanted to be like Jesus. That's all I ever knew. But because my family represented a different type of church, because I would go to Sunday school, church, sing in the choir, and all that, and would walk there by myself, come home. And then my family was what did you say, the CME, Christian?
Hmm.
Yeah, they
Christmas
were like that, right? And so they would walk in the church. As soon as they walk in the church, all of a sudden they jumping up and down and dancing all that. And I'm like, what the, and I'm thinking, all the
Holiness,
time,
baby,
yeah, all
holiness.
the time, right? I'm like, I'm trying to get the Holy Spirit to come down on me, and it never did. Okay, I was just like, wow, this is really so. My small-minded self, and because of the environment that I grew up in, I thought that God was rejecting me too. So when
Hmm.
I got to be about 12 or 13, I was like, all right, I'm done with this. I started, hanging out in the street and selling drugs with the rest of them because I couldn't understand how my family who didn't go to church got all these blessings and all was taken care of. And here I'm over here struggling, nobody feeding me and taking care. I was done, Greg. I was like, all right, y'all, y'all.
And when do we come to the realization? Even in the word, it said it rains on the good as well as the bad.
Yep.
And we understand this, that if you are if supposedly your religious system says if you do these things, you should get this, but you do these things and don't get that, when do you look at it and say maybe I'm doing it the wrong way or it don't work?
Yeah, well, I continued to question because I still had a very sacred relationship. And one thing, my mother was put in a mental institution
Right.
when I was 5, but before that time, my mother taught us how to pray. And I felt like I had a way of talking to God. So I questioned because sometimes spirit would say something to me and I would ask an adult a question and they could not, and I'm reading the Bible and talking. I'm like, wait a minute, there's something wrong here. It did not match up. And it took me a while, but then when I started asking questions, I began getting kicked out of Sunday schools, churches, and even when I was in Iowa, they were like,
Right.
"Yeah, you shouldn't, you can't be talking to God. God don't." And yeah, I'm like, there is something seriously
That's
wrong.
fun. That's funny because I had so one thing I do well, I spell well. Uh, when I was a kid in third grade, first encounter was coming from the city school to the suburban school that Monday morning,
Oh
had
man.
a spelling bee. And I didn't know how to spell a certain word. And when you misspell a word, you would get your hand smacked. So I learned from that day on, I was going to be an excellent speller. And so I'm sitting in Sunday school one day. And so my Sunday school teacher had me read some psalms, and at the end of the psalms, it supposedly says "Amen," but I said "Amen," and she says that's "Amen," and I said "Amen," and then we went back and forth, and she said, "Look, you're getting in trouble because I said no, I read well. AMEN is not AMAN." And at that point, I could not understand for a long time until I was older and began to study comedic science. Why do they say, church folks say amen? Because they don't want to say amen.
Ooh, okay.
It's the amen they talk about as the amen has the same principles as the amen, but they don't want to say amen. Because if you say amen, now you got to follow the breadcrumb. The breadcrumb takes you back to the Nile Valley civilizations where Christianity comes.
Yes.
Yeah, Amen Ra, right.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's why I believe that the internet has done more good than bad to our community. Because now our kids know information, and that's why they don't go to church. Because the preacher can't answer the question.
Yes. The preacher can't answer the question because they've been taught a certain way and it's very limited.
That's right. That's right. And I'm glad because the generation is going to say, if you can't answer the question, why should I put my livelihood, my life, my eternity in your hands when you can't deal with the information I'm asking you?
Right.
So
now, listen, I want you because look, we are down to the last 30 minutes, but I still have questions. So tell
I'm like an onion. You ain't never gonna get it all.
I know that. And we have plenty of, I keep plenty of platforms open to community. Right. I want you to talk more about your interest and involvement with comedic science and why it's so important for us.
Well, it started when I got my master's degree, and I did not have one class in Black psychology. But after I got my master's degree, I had an encounter with, so at this time I'm going to workshops, and I'm in the presence of Dr. Ben Yakiman, who is gone, but he was coming to Chicago. Dr. Van Sertima, he was coming to Chicago. Dr. Henry Clark came to Chicago. Now, these are people who I got to meet, but at the point of meeting them, I didn't know their significance. And so these people I got to meet were instrumental in my evolution, because as I met them, I began to read their works. And then I began to see that there was information that I didn't have that I needed to have. And so I began to expand. See, it's not what you know, it's the things that you don't know that you got to know. And so in doing that, I began to study. First, I started with the Black psychology, and then I came to understand that for the commission or the comedic science, spirituality is psychology. It's about the psyche means the mind, and the mind is not the brain. Psychology studies the brain. It does not study the essence or the soul. So the soul that needs to be studied is to be understood. And all psychology does is understand the brain. They understand the behavior. They don't understand the spirit, and they can't unpack that. And so that's why I got into comedic science. And then I naturally went into it because as I began to see the correlation between Christianity. Now, a lot of my friends who are in the comedic community or in the culture community say I need to let it go. The reason why they want me to let it go because they don't understand Christianity the way I understand it. They haven't read it the way I've read it. They have not experienced it the way so I couldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I got rid of the dirty water. I deconstructed. So I began to look at, when you talk about example, the Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. That's where is the divine femininity in that?
Hello.
Two males, and I'm not saying this to throw stones at people, but two males can't give you a child. Two females can't give you the child. You need that divine masculine and you need that divine feminine spark to give you that child. And so when I began to look at and study and unpack the history of Christianity, how in 325 AD, you have the Catholic Church, and you have the councils of Nicaea. But even before then, in 300 BC, you started seeing the influence of the Greeks and the individuals who were coming into northern Egypt, and they were taking our stories. Serapis. Most people don't even know Serapis is. Serapis is modern day Jesus. He's modeled after Ausar. Serapis is Ausar. Jesus is Ausar. Jesus is Haru.
Yeah.
And so all these things we don't know, but we stand. See, here's the thing. We entrench ourselves in what we know, what we believe. But you can believe a lie and die. But we got to be willing to let go. And so for me, I had what they call there's a term for it where you just have a very difficult time letting go of something that you know you need to let go. What's that term? It's on the tip of my tongue and it'll come around to me. But many times we don't want to let it go because it was given to us by our mothers, our fathers, our great-grandmothers. And we figure if it was good for them, it's good for us.
Yeah, we call ourselves honoring tradition.
Right, and we got to get rid of traditions.
Yep.
Let me give you a scripture. The scripture says, the traditions of men makes the word of God of no impact.
Wow.
And that goes for that. We have these cultural traditions, be them Eurocentric or Afrocentric. If they do not allow you to be the best you, we need to let them go. Mm-hmm. We don't have to do some of the things our ancestors done. Right. We don't have to burn a torch. We turn on a light. So we got to look for, how do we practice our spirituality in modern day?
Yeah. And that's so great, Greg, because it was one of the works that we used to do with Master Force when I first started with the young people, was sit around and meditate once a week. And, that was inside of a conversation that I knew about the power of meditation. We get together and you can send the energy out into the environment. Mm-hmm. We can do that now. We don't have to have marches,
Right. That's old stuff. That's old stuff. That's old stuff. One of my spiritual practices is meditation.
Yeah.
But my meditation is breathing. Yeah. I get quiet. I follow my breath. I put myself in a position where I can't go to sleep, or I might sit on a comfortable couch. Right. I don't necessarily have to sit flat on the floor, right, but I sit comfortable and I follow my breath until thoughts are gone.
Yes.
And I'm just present.
Yeah. And that's what it is. And that's how you open to the download.
Yes. And there it is. Now, see, people don't know this. Check this out. Here's a scripture. The scripture says, upon your bed at night. Now, this is a powerful scripture. It says, while you sleep and slumber, source downloads, it corrects, it downloads in you what you need to know. Mm-hmm. Isn't that something? And basically, science says you got to get into a certain wave, alpha, beta, or delta. There's a different. Mm-hmm. Theta. I think it's the theta wave. When you get in theta, when you get into the sleep state,
Yeah.
That's when you get downloads.
Yes.
And you don't have to go to sleep to get into theta. All you got to do is get into meditation.
Yes. And Greg, remember, my story about breaking my hip, thigh, and knee when I was 17? When that teacher brought that book in, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind, I only read 3 chapters out
That's
of it.
all you need to read.
Okay, and it was 21 chapters. And
Right.
then 3 days later, I'm popping up saying, hey, I'm ready to go home. And they say, whoa, where have you been? I was doing what the book said do. I was contacting God. And sure enough, when the doctor came in, he said, you must have contacted God.
See?
And then when I got out of that hospital, and I said to myself, why are they not teaching us this in school?
Or in the church.
Well, I'm talking about the power of the mind. Like,
Yes.
you telling me that our minds are this powerful that we can create anything that we put our focus on?
Yes.
And you remember, it used to be a thing back in the day, a mind is a terrible thing to waste.
So things we say.
They took that out,
I
right?
give you one more powerful than that. James Brown, Mind Power. You ever get a chance to listen to that song? It is so powerful.
Yeah, yeah. So we have got to get back to, really honoring ourselves as
Yes.
people of God or people of the heaven, because we have everything, but we are distracted, completely distracted as a people, is what
Yes. Yes, we are. And we're so busy trying to be what we aren't. We're so busy trying to be what other people are. We don't want to embrace that's why the scripture said, honor your mothers, your father. So we have an ancestral acknowledgement.
Yeah.
We need to look back and see what worked for them. Why did it work for them? How can we bring that current into this day and age? We may not have to do it exactly like how they did it, but we understand that there's a principle, there's a law behind what they did.
Yeah.
That's spirituality. That's what made the difference. They were one with the universe,
Man.
one with everything around them.
Yeah.
So that's why I've got into this. That's why I'm still delving into Kemetic science. Kemetic spirituality is giving me a more powerful word, more powerful message. This past month, the month of October, we're not in October yet, the month of July, I've been dealing with the power of the mouth, the tongue.
Yes.
Learning how to manage your mouth. Learning that death and life is in the power of the tongue. Next month, I'm walking them back. What comes before the speech? The thought. The Egyptians believed there had to be control of thought, control of speech, and control of action.
Wow.
Now, if you want to be an Ausar man or a Set woman, learn how to control what you think, what you say, and what you do.
Yeah.
That's transformation.
That's transformation. And listen, when we actually take on being responsible for our own health and well-being, it'll spin these hospitals out of control. Because what they're doing right now is just sustaining themselves. They're not trying to sustain us.
It was so crazy. Have you watch how they have spent this whole conversation about the shot? First, it was you get the shot and you avoid COVID. Now you get the shot, you want to avoid COVID. You'll have you have a mild case of COVID. They have again. We can't even assure that, but they still are pushing the shot.
Yeah, and you still have people who know. I see the most intelligent people that I admire talking about, I'm on my third, and all I can do is just shake my head.
Yep. I'm not going. I'm not doing. I work for the government.
Yeah.
I'm doing. I know my rights and I stand inside of them. I'm not bragging or being braggadocious, but I'm only concerned about myself.
Yeah.
I'm not.
And I'm not telling other people what to do.
What to do? Right.
But I stand on the immune system that I was born with. Okay, I'm gonna tell you that. That's who God gave us, right? All that immunity. And then I play played in dirt a lot when I grew up. You know, these
Yeah,
kids don't play in enough dirt. You know, they too clean.
yeah. They don't get out. They don't run. They don't play. They don't
No,
play. Kids are not kids.
not like we used to do.
Right. We played games. We jumped rope. We
We
stole
did
your
we did mud pies
right.
and
All that kind of
scratch
stuff.
butter.
Go
But
outside.
right, how do you keep yourself spiritually grounded?
I play. I have fun. I
You
tell
sure
jokes.
do.
Like example, if you follow me on my page, in my backside of my Facebook page, people are always saying, "Aren't you a minister? Or shouldn't you be doing that? Why do you say that?" Because two things gonna happen on my page. You either gonna laugh or you gonna learn.
Mm-hmm.
So I let people see things about me because my life is an open book. As one who is leading people in transformation, people need to see how I live, what I go through. When I have challenges, how does he deal with it? So if you see me every day, you know every day I'm not always smiling. I may smile throughout the day, but I may also let I've got something heavy on my mind. Then if you watch me, you're going to see ultimately he's going to make a shift. And how do he make that shift?
Right.
So people need to see the excellence of how to live life, the mastery of life.
Yeah.
Everybody's talking about it. All these gurus out here on YouTube. I mean, half of them haven't. Really, they can't get themselves out of a four wall room with the door that says open here. It's just so, but
But you
they,
know, most people don't realize that. That's why I tell people, I say, you're listening to people that have not
yes,
even lived the challenges that
yes,
you have already gone through. They
and you
haven't
can't
lived them.
reach them. You can't even reach them. You can't
No,
call them. You can't talk to them.
nope,
You don't even know nobody that knows them.
nope. And that's why when they come to me and want me to endorse their programs and all that, who want to what do they want to do? I mean, I get so many calls with people who want to buy my curriculum and do this with it. I say, listen, I know exactly where I was placed with the mission that I was placed with. Now, when I'm gone, I don't have any control over that. But while I'm here, I'm concentrating on where I was led to be, and that's with my people. You
Yeah,
know,
that's
that's with
me.
my,
I love my people. Now, I'm the kind of person I love all people,
I do
but
too.
I don't love no people like my people.
No,
And can't nobody do me like my people. I love my people. I'm sorry. That's just where I am. All my life, I've been all over the world, but nobody can be my girl except one of our people.
yeah,
There's
yeah,
something about nobody. I don't have to explain everything to you.
yeah.
A sister should know me. My mama knew me. My sister knows me. So the woman I date knows me. That's me. I can't compromise who I'm called to by
Yeah.
saying something other than is better than.
Isn't that
No,
something?
no, I'm not losing my power.
Yeah, and this is what I'm telling people. If you want to get past mental health issues, ground yourself spiritually. Because when you stay in your head trying to work something out, like Greg said, the breath, sitting in the breath and allowing the we
Right.
need I listen, our God, the universe, source energy is always sending us what we need. But you have to open to receive.
Yes. And that's part of my when you ask what is some of the things I do, my spiritual practice, I listen to oldies that make me feel good.
Yeah.
I walk in the element. If it's raining, I'll go for a walk and I'm not all covered up. I'll go to the river and watch the river flow. I learn lessons by watching the birds, the bees when
Mm-hmm.
they're doing what they're doing, the ants. So I stay spiritually grounded by being part
And
of
in nature. Yeah.
nature. Yes.
Uh-huh.
Natural nature. That's it. That taking a hot bath and just soaking in it, and then letting the water out and putting some more hot water in. Those
Yeah.
little simple things I do. I don't read as much. My spiritual practice isn't steeped in reading as much as it's in receiving.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one thing I have asked the universe is anything that it gives me, Give me the ability to footnote it, to find it somewhere. So a lot of stuff I read, I already knew, but because, people say, how'd he come up with that? Well, I'll give you a footnote that you'll appreciate. And that's how I live my life.
And it's so interesting because a lot of things come it'll download, but then all of a sudden I'll see a book or something, and it just affirms it. It just affirms it.
It affirms it.
Yeah, it gives
nothing is new, and nothing is ours, and we don't own nothing.
Right. When what's his name came up with epigenetics.
Yeah,
that's what I did back there when I was 17 in 1975.
Right. But because you didn't have the name,
language for
the language, but you had the essence.
I had the essence, and that was right, exactly, and use that exactly. And in the book that I read, they didn't talk about epigenetics. It was merely as simple as you can close your eyes and visualize your body forming the way that you want it to be, and trusting that the energy of life in you will have it happen.
That's right. Right. You're cutting that on, and you're cutting off what you don't want, and you're cutting on what you desire.
Yeah. And stay focused in that. Yes.
Holding that. And see, most people can't stay focused in that. Their intention, they're all over the place.
Yeah. They're scared. They put that fear in. That's why I don't with them people.
Right. So I don't watch the news as much. I try to watch what I let in my eyes and my ears.
That's right.
Because that controls my thought. And in 95% of your day, you're living unconsciously. You're living by these thoughts that you don't even know you get.
All of it, right, Greg? All of it.
Yes.
So, man, we're getting to the end of the hour and 2 hours into the 2
Wow.
It's something, and I know we probably have a whole nother hour conversation, but they don't give me that much time on the radio.
Well, I don't really talk a lot. I'm a listener.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that you would ask me to talk. Now, I'll talk when I have to talk, when I have to present something or do something, but I'm good being silent. I'm good.
Yeah.
Not saying nothing.
I know. But now people, they're going to want to engage with you. How can they engage with you? Where can they find you? If they have questions about the practices that you've mentioned, they want to,
Well, they can always start by going to the YouTube channel, which is Oasis, OASIS, Spiritual Center. If you go out there, you will have access to everything you need to get to me. You'll also have my website, which is www.spiritualcenterfordivineliving.com, or my coaching website. You can find that out there. But the phone number, if you want to reach me by phone, is 708-368-1076. And my virtual answerer will take the message, and I'll call you back at my earliest convenience. Or you could text me to that number. Again, 708-368-1076.
Wow. This has been really, really great. We have walked down memory lane.
Yeah.
We've given some solutions. We've uncovered some secrets. They weren't secrets,
right?
But some things that I didn't know.
And I didn't know. I wasn't aware of.
Some rememberings. Yeah. You were like, wait a minute. I've never said that before. What is this about?
Mm-hmm.
Are you currently working on anything new that we should be looking out for?
Yes, I am working on a manifestation master course. It's going to be an 8-week manifestation master course. It's not a course if you just want information. It's a course where you get information that you have to take to application. It's a combination of a mastermind with the principles of manifestation.
Wonderful.
And we're going to go into it from thought formation. We're going to deal with the power of words, speech, things you can do to hold your intentions, all of those things, tuning into your soul purpose, your soul path, and only manifesting those things that you need. We need to learn how to pack light.
We sure do.
You know what you need to be there when you get there.
Yep. You don't need to carry the whole house, right?
Don't need to. Give some of that stuff away. Travel light. You ever notice that? I think without bringing us to the close almost, when a mountain climber starts out, he has a heavy pack. On his way up the mountain, he starts unpacking things because no way will he ever reach the zenith of the mountain with a full pack.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the stuff he leaves on his way down. You don't have to take everything with you. Get it on the way back.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's how life is. It supplies my every need.
That's
It
right.
supplies
And
your every need.
that sounds like someone who's grounded inside of trust and
Yes,
trusting the process and letting
yes,
go.
yes,
You're gonna be fine.
yes,
You don't have to worry about it.
yes.
So, do you have any final statements for our audience before we sign off?
Yes, you guys need to really check out Master Force. We have a bunch of Master Force coaches. Many of the senior coaches are not coaching at that magnitude that we used to. We're doing a lot of other things, but inside of Master Force, there's some young, dynamic coaches that have insight, have some practices that really can help many of you who are on this channel get the breakthrough.
Yeah.
You want to break through. You want to break out. Consider getting coached.
Mm-hmm. And we believe everybody needs a coach. And
Yeah.
I actually have a course going on now. I'm still certifying life coaches. My vision is that there's a Master Force coach at every dinner table.
Come on now.
So we bringing back dinner at the table
That's
along
right.
with the coach. So
Yeah,
you got somebody there that can take care of the whole group while we eat.
that's right. That's right. And it's so much more powerful. And then once you engage a coach, a Master Force coach, and what makes the Master Force coach different is they're you. They've had the same experiences you've had. They've come from the broken homes that you've been in. They've had broken relationships that have had all the experiences, but they've learned to master them. The one thing I get most out of Master Force, before I became a coach, I had to coach myself. I had to apply all of the principles that we were being taught. We took it to application. So now when I get in front of a client, I know what works if they work it.
Yeah, that's what I like about it too, Greg, Sarah, because most of the time people they're coaching you through theory. They
Yes.
haven't applied what they're talking about.
Ask
They
them,
don't
have
use
you gone through this? Have you experienced this?
No, I
Right.
told somebody the other day, somebody said, oh yeah, I follow so, and and again, I have a lot of Caucasian friends and
Right.
I follow Caucasian, but I told them, I said, now here's the difference. Have that person ever had to deal with racism in their life?
Yes.
Any place?
Right. No.
So even if you try to follow the system that they're giving you, what's going to happen when you hit that breakdown that they didn't get? They
Right.
can't.
See, this is what they miss. Look at a track. You got 0 starting point, 10 yards, 20 yards. They're starting at the 20-yard line. We start at 0. They don't know how to get from 0 to 20.
Exactly.
And you need a coach that can help you get from 0 to 20, how to navigate the hood and situations that operate in the hood. And when I say the hood, I'm talking about different levels of socio-economic expressions in the Black community.
Yes.
Have different challenges.
Yes. And
So
we
we're
have
not
to
the
learn
same.
that.
We're not the
That's part
same.
of our success.
Yes.
Our success track is different from theirs.
Yes.
So trying to jump over there and skipping some things, I promise you,
They ain't gonna make it.
no, the universe gonna have you backtrack
That's
because
a
you
backtrack.
came here
Yes.
also with ancestors.
Yes.
Come on now, right?
Yes.
Don't get me started.
Well, you got 8 minutes to go.
Well, no. Actually, we still have to run. I want you to know that you are someone who is in my circle that have provided so many times just a soft place to land.
Yeah.
And that's what I appreciate you being in my space, and you are the, you're my birthday twin, but we also get to play off of each other.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And we get to grow and develop, and that's been so significant for me, and I appreciate you for that.
I appreciate you.
Yeah, it's been
Yes. And I value you. I don't devalue you by bringing minutia to you. When I come to you, I got some serious stuff.
Oh yeah, that's right. I mean, it's not like we talk all the time because
That's right.
we're pretty much
We-
self-sufficient.
Right,
Exactly.
and we don't have to talk all the time. I know how to tune in to you.
Right. And boy,
Right.
we're creating. What's next? What you doing
Yeah.
here? What's going on there? But so I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Everybody, thank you for listening to us. This is July 26, 2022. And we are just so excited that we've had a chance, that you've had a chance to meet my brother King, Ausar Aten, and he is also lovingly known as Greg Stanton or Gregory
Yes.
Stanton. And you can follow him on all of the different social medias, but mostly look for him on the Oasis Spiritual Center on YouTube because he has a wealth of teachings.
Yes.
You use and actually will help you to kind of get acclimated into a spiritual essence different from
Yes.
that Christian
Yes.
background. Because believe it or not, people, yes, some of those teachings were more like poison.
Yes.
I don't want to sound too harsh.
Well, sometimes you gotta take the castor oil.
You gotta take the castor off. But next week, we're going to be talking to another Master Force coach. And you all know I don't only have Master Force coaches on here, but it just so happens that we're going to be talking to Teresa Lugo, who is a Master Force coach and an author. And she lives in Puerto Rico, so she's going to give us some of her time. And we're going to be talking about relationships, in particular, family.
You forgot this.
Huh?
You forgot a descriptor for a fine Master Force coach.
People are on me all the time. Do you all have a criteria that Master Force coaches have to look a certain way? No, we don't.
Get your mind right and you look right.
Get your mind right, the looks will come.
That's right. Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining Master Force Radio. We're going to take it out with Ascend, and we will see you next week. Enjoy the rest of your week. Thanks, Greg. Thanks, Ausar.
Peace.
Peace. to